It's really funny how Florida has basically become the Florida man of the country. Just there's always silly stuff going on there. We always hear I love the headlines. Florida man does crazy stuff and jumps off a bridge and lands perfectly in a T pose on the top of a yacht. Like I don't know, crazy stuff happening in Florida. Guy takes alligator to the liquor store. That. And gradually, every time there's news about Florida, it's some new insane thing that they're doing. It's some new anti-trans thing or anti-free speech thing or like something that's going to gut public education. Everything you hear from there is just bad news all the time right now. I hope Florida man is okay because otherwise he seems to be living his best life. That one man, that one singular Florida man, living his best life. No notes whatsoever. This time, the story out of Florida is that a bill has passed out of committee, I think, and now it's intended to go to either the House or Senate floor. It is a bill that will mandate that health insurance cover conversion therapy treatment for trans people, presumably. Oh, and it also bans trans people from updating their driver's license gender markers. That fun little thing. They'll make a bathroom bill or an otherwise unrelated bill, and then just go, oh, also, trans people are no longer going to be recognized as trans and can't change their gender markers anymore. Yay! So the Florida Select Committee on Health Innovation passed House Bill 1639, which will mandate that health insurers cover conversion therapy for trans people. And then also, yeah, the gender markers thing, and make it easier for health insurers to deny healthcare coverage for gender affirming care at any age. Okay, so so I saw this headline and I knew that this was going to be the effect of the law, but I didn't know that it actually was part of the law. And I would need to read it, I guess, to find the specific part. But Erin suggests here that this law would also make it easier for health insurers to deny for normal gender affirming care, so hormones and stuff, at any age. So what this bill is going to do is it requires coverage of conversion therapy treatment, quote unquote treatment for trans people, and makes it easier for health insurers to deny normal gender affirming care, which basically means that if people are reliant on their insurance to get health care, insurance already costs money, and a lot of people can't afford to just pay the full price for some of these treatments. Like the blood tests, for one example, blood tests can be very expensive, even if you're just checking your hormone levels. And some people cannot bear the burden of that, and that's why they're reliant on their health insurance. So you're making it to where the only, basically the only treatment available that insurance will cover is going to a conversion therapist, a therapist who is going to try to convince you or find some reason why you're trans in order to deny you medical care, essentially. Hey, real quick, hit the like button if you're enjoying the content. Hit the subscribe button as well and turn on all notifications. And also take a moment to check out the links in the description for merchandise and Patreon, where you can find exclusive free content. Oh my goodness gracious. This is a 10-page long bill, so it's more in depth than a lot of other ones that I've seen recently, frankly. There's a number of stipulations for trans care. One provision will require that any health insurance provider covering gender affirming care will also cover detransition care. Listen, I think that's great, actually, because I have heard some detrans people say that it's tough for them to get healthcare coverage, like insurance coverage for some of their detransition related care. Like if someone previously had a double mastectomy, top surgery, and they decide that they actually want to have breast implants, it can be hard to get coverage for that. And so I think that, yeah, absolutely. I extremely advocate for that. I think that's a great move. It's unfortunate that it's one good move wrapped in a lot of other negative things. Erin posits that the reality would be that many providers in Florida will be rejecting providing both trans and detrans care coverage altogether because the state law already allows exclusions on trans health care. As well, I don't know how you would prove that you're trans or detrans. I'm not really sure how the insurance company could be positive that you were, I guess if you had continuous care with them, if you originally got your top surgery covered by your health insurance and then later needed to get a breast implant, they would know that you were trans and then detrans. But I could see that being a thing where they're like, in order to avoid the liability of being accused of providing gender affirming care, then we're just not gonna do it at all. Yeah, actual healthcare for detrans people is the same stuff trans people need, and if they ban it and nobody has helped, don't believe them when they say they care about detrans people. Yeah, I care more about detrans people than these folks do, and most of the time when I talk about detrans people, it's because one of them is being a huge asshole. Speaking to the topic in general, yeah, I like detrans people who genuinely regret it. That sucks. And like most detrans people are only doing it because they're not being socially accepted. And to them, I say, when you decide to retransition later, we will be waiting for you. No harm, no foul. Just don't be a transphobe, like while you're over there. Aaron focuses in on a particular part of the bill. It says, a health benefit plan that is delivered or issued to an individual or group in the state may not prohibit the coverage of mental health or therapeutic services to treat a person's perception that his or her sex, as defined in another section, is inconsistent with such person's sex at birth by affirming the insured sex. So yeah, they want to that's like the part that says, yeah, you are required, you may not prohibit the coverage. So you have to provide coverage for mental health or therapeutic services trying to get you to affirm the sex that you were assigned at birth. So yeah, parents could enroll their children in those such programs. We would like that type of therapy to be illegal. Conversion therapy should be illegal. But no, places like Florida are mandating that it be covered by insurance. And it's interesting that they don't regulate that either. Like, they don't regulate what's going on in these conversion therapy situations, I don't think, but whatever. Part of healthcare is covering the care for when treatment doesn't go as planned. So part of trans care should be caring for detrans people, even if it's very uncommon. That makes perfect sense to me. You absolutely should provide healthcare coverage for detrans people in any situation where you would be providing coverage for trans people. It's just good policy. It just makes sense. I don't know why you would. It's again this idea that certain people have legitimate gender dysphoria and other people don't. Like, why is the gender dysphoria of a detrans person not considered a medically necessary problem to solve? I don't understand that. Obviously, Aaron points out that there's no evidence supporting the effectiveness of conversion therapy, whether you're talking about gay people or trans people. Like, there's no changing gender identity or sexuality. But you do increase the risk of suicide and suicide attempts when you put people through those kinds of therapy. Overall detrimental impact to mental health. When she was asked about the provision, Representative Bankson, who I think is a sponsor of this bill, did not attempt to deflect or couch the language and said explicitly that this bill allows for conversion therapy. Are you mandating that private insurances provide coverage to conversion therapy? Is that what this bill would do? The response is, I guess it's a guy and not a girl, whatever. Basically, it makes sure that those who would desire to seek that have the option. Yeah, so conversion therapy will be one of the options on the table. Yeah, conversion therapy is a very effective torture method. So it's effective at least one thing. It's not very effective at getting people to desist at their gender or their sexuality, but it's, highly effective at producing the kind of results you see from torture. Good old classic PTSD. Cringe. This was again one of those situations where they held hearings and they had way more people opposed to this bill as opposed to people who are supporting it. So it's just, again, folks not actually, they're going through the motions of listening to their constituents, but then they don't actually listen to them. Overwhelming majority of people who show up at these things are supporting trans people across the country, everywhere across the country, and yet they never listen. I would have a breakdown just losing my HRT, let alone being straight up put through the conversion therapy. Right. It's a deeply harmful practice. It does not produce, I don't even think it produces the results that they want. Like, people might change their behavior temporarily, but it's not like it actually changes your sexual orientation or your gender identity. So you can't, like, there's no evidence, I think, that it does anything except, again, people will say anything to get torture to stop. The kind of things that happen in conversion therapy are like electroshock therapy and like giving you medication to artificially increase the amount of serotonin in your brain. Like they will do crazy things. And people, when you torture them effectively, yeah, eventually they'll say anything to get you to stop. It's not a reliable way to get people to tell you the truth or to get them to like do what you want them to do for longer than it takes for them to like just get away from you. I wasn't really planning on changing my gender marker in Florida, but to know that it is not an option at all, or might not be an option at all, or even retroactively might revert gender markers is horrible. Yeah, yeah. Part of why I want to leave Kansas is, first of all, they've never had the option for an X on the thing. They only recently made it so that you could change the birth certificate. You've been able to change the driver's license with medical documentation, but they're taking away the ability to update the birth certificate and the driver's license. And when you go to renew your driver's license, it will revert back to what it was originally. I mean, like, I don't actually know how. I don't think that they're going to be able to, with one click of the button, revert everybody's gender changes. So maybe some people will be missed. But yeah, if you can keep the birth certificate you have if you amended it, to be clear. But if you wanted it, if you lost it or you needed to get a new one, then it would have your original birth sex on it again. Even if you, again, went through the legal process of providing medical documentation to prove that you had the right to change it. So it's kind of like how it's weird. It's actually worse than when gay marriage was briefly legalized in California and then it was made illegal again. Well, the gay people who got married while it was legal in that window, their marriages weren't nullified when gay marriage was then made not legal again. So it's actually more fucked up that we are having, like, we made a change to our documentation legally and now it's being retroactively revoked even though we followed the legal procedure at the time. So like, I don't actually think that that's okay, but whatever. Yeah, but it's one of those things. They just slip it into these mostly unrelated bills. It's a trans related bill, and also, by the way, you can't update your ID anymore. So good luck getting a job or an apartment if you're being outed constantly every time you have to produce your identification for someone. Good luck getting harassed by transphobic police. Yeah, gotta love this Christian nationalism that we're living through. So very Christian. Hi, thank you so much to all of my patrons, especially Tiago Nascimento, Mersh Rolvag, Amanda B., Michelle Frateroli, Michelle Winter, Wellington Marcus, Danielle McDonald, DZXN, Suzanne Maynard, Spooky Heather Sylvia, Jamie Jam, Pasnell Infinity, Nova, Elizabeth Bartell, Sojo, Sarah A., Athiet, Kevin Young, Celeste, Desi Quiche, Liam Hodgson, Mr. Atheist, and Ella V. Nobody.